So that was the trailer for the first season of Doomsday Preppers. How many of you guys have seen this show? Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So as I was first getting acquainted with the readings for today, all I could think of was this show and how on earth am I supposed to talk about the end of the world? It's kind of the opposite thing you'd expect from a youth trying to fill pastor's shoes. You'd probably be expecting something more along the lines of an encouraging sermon about being yourself even in the midst of societal pressures or keeping your faith amid peer persecution. But nope, not this Sunday. Instead, we're going to talk about doomsday. Amos chapter 5, verses 18 through 24 says, "Woe to all of you who want God's judgment day. Why do you want to see God, want him to come? When God comes, it will be bad news before it's good news. The worst of times, not the best of times. Here's what it's like. A man runs from a lion right into the jaws of a bear. At God's coming, we face hard reality, not fantasy. I can't stand your religious meetings. I'm fed up with your conferences and conventions. I want nothing to do with your religion projects, your pretentious slogans and goals. I'm sick of your fundraising schemes, your public relations and image making. I've had all I can take of your noisy ego music. When was the last time you sang to me? Do you know what I want? I want justice, oceans of it. I want fairness, rivers of it. That's what I want. That's all I want." God is saying he doesn't want our church services or religious meetings. He doesn't want our fundraisers. He even says he can't stand our noisy ego music, all our songs about how much we love Jesus and how much we would do for him. After reading this, I got a little freaked out. We all know that we're saved by grace through faith, at least I'd hope, but this almost sounds like the complete opposite. Whatever you do, it's not going to be good enough, so you might as well just face it now, was my first impression. After coming to this downer of a conclusion, I did the most rational thing I possibly could. I went on the internet and found a survey to figure out how prepared my family was for the end. I found this on National Geographic's website, thinking that I wouldn't actually end up using it and it would only be a small distraction, but it ended up taking me over an hour. This is the first part of the test, which didn't take too terribly long. My family has roughly 25 gallons of water stored in our garage left over from Hurricane Irma. So the next, again, was fairly quick and easy. We live in Florida, so what kind of climate do we live in? It's really, really hot. The next part is what took all my time. For those of you who don't know who my dad is, he's Mike Clark. And I'm guessing some of you probably know him pretty well, but haven't met me yet. But if for some reason you don't know yet, he's known for smoking really, really good food. So of course, as his child, I'm exposed to his hobby much more than the rest of you. So if you can see on the survey, it asks how much food do you have stored up. So just for kicks, I took an inventory of our freezer, and this is what took up my hour. I entered in a pound of grain, 11 servings of vegetables, and 250 pounds of meat. We have 2 packages of pork belly, 7 gallons of chicken stock, 6 pounds of beef, 3 turkeys, 60 pounds in pork butts, 28 pounds of pork chops, 30 pounds of sausage, 30 pounds of bacon, 20 whole chickens, and 60 racks of ribs, and a partridge in a pear tree. My dad estimated that we probably have closer to 500 pounds of meat in our freezer, but the survey would only let me enter 250. So there were a lot more questions to the survey about things like bunkers and bug-out locations, all of which my family doesn't have. So here are our results. Even with over 500 pounds of meat, my family was only estimated to last 2 to 4 weeks, with a score of 26. I was thinking, hey, that's almost a month, so that's not too bad, until I saw how we compared to the rest of the people on the show, with the highest having a score of 95 and being able to survive 24 months. We wouldn't even have a chance. The gospel reading today is talking about preparedness in the form of a parable. Kind of like the doomsday preppers store food and water and build crazy bunkers and plan bug-out routes. So should we all be preparing and storing? The answer is no. The 5 overachievers that brought extra oil got into the wedding party, which is heaven, with the bridegroom, who's Jesus. Instead of storing things like food and water, we need to figure out how to get the extra oil. So let's think about it this way. In this story, the lamp is you. The bare minimum of oil you've brought are the works that you've done. So the good things you've done because you're a Christian. The extra oil is the why you're doing those things and the continuation of them. So the girls who ran out of oil, we can say, were not genuine. To someone on the outside looking in, these girls would be the people that were spotless. They did the right things. They went to church, they worked in the community, and they tithed. But all they're actually doing is going through the motions, and they aren't doing it for the right reasons. The girls with the extra oil may or may not look outwardly like the ones who ran out. Their works may not be as evident, but their hearts are in the right places. They are doing the right things for the right reasons. The reading from Amos and the parable are surprisingly talking about the same thing. In Amos, we're being told God doesn't want anything to do with our good stuff, like our religious meetings and fundraisers, and our worship through song, also known as ego music. The reason he doesn't want it is because in the context they're being mentioned, they aren't genuine. The meetings and fundraisers and music aren't glorifying to God or praising to him. In the parable, the 5 silly women who didn't have enough oil represent those self-centered works. Instead of trying to store up spiritual goodness or works because we can't, we should instead be focused on growing our own faith and being genuine in our own actions.